Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to ask Superintendent Monroe if we want to put up the PowerPoint. I know it will be forward facing as we are live streaming on YouTube as well. We have a few more folks that are coming in, so we'll let them in. Okay, so Christina, if we could just keep an eye out on those we need to admit, that would be great, and we will get started. I want to thank everybody and welcome to our school council startup. It is hosted by the Grand Erie Parent Involvement Committee, and we welcome everybody, and we know that we're going to get not only a really good response internally in MS Teams, but also on YouTube, and we know that the presentation will be live streaming on YouTube. So we thank you and encourage your ongoing support and participation as we move forward. So this evening, as part of our startup, if we can go to the second slide, I just want to give a bit of an overview of our session this evening. And I will shortly turn it over to Susan Gibson, Vice Chair of the Board, who will bring greetings. I'm providing some remarks, but I will definitely do so again after Vice Chair Gibson provides her welcome. And then turn it over to our chair, our GEPIC chair, Sarah Nickel. So we thank Sarah Nickel for leading this and championing the opportunity for us to come together. And before we get into the orientation component, we're really honored and pleased, and Chair Nickel will introduce Dr. Jean Clinton, who will be with us. Dr. Jean Clinton has not only been working with staff, but senior team across our district on many occasions since the beginning of the school year to help us not only kick off our strategic plan, Lean, Learn, Inspire, with a culture of learning, well-being, and belonging, but also really looking at the wellness of all of us and how we can further enhance and support our work in our district. So we're very, very excited to have Dr. Jean Clinton join us. I'll then provide a few brief updates, some school council information, and we have an outstanding group of administrators and superintendents with us this evening who will then do some brainstorming and sharing of best practices for the school council orientation component. So at this time, before we actually get started with the agenda, I would like to take this moment to turn it over to Superintendent Graham. And I believe Mr. Brochu, shortly after, Superintendent Graham is going to introduce our principal lead for our Indigenous opening this evening, and followed by that, our land acknowledgement. For everybody who is part of this session this evening, we will begin with an opening, and we will then end this evening with a closing. So I'll turn it over to Superintendent Graham. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. It's great to see everyone logging in right now. This is very exciting, and I know that we've got a great evening planned, lots of learning and collaboration. But at this time, I'd like to turn things over to Robin Statz, who is our Indigenous Principal Leader with Grand Erie District School Board, for our opening. Thank you, Robin. Oh, and you're on mute, Robin.
Nations I'm going to do the Ohando Galiadekwa, which is the Mohawk Thanksgiving address. Sego Sawaguego, Nyawa Guego Scano, Wedawawe, Nyawa Guego Scano, de Wanandonio, Nyawa Sangwayadiso, Aguego Nahoda Squawi, Dego Nuholados, Daskia Dohetste, Ki, Tsi, Niwa Nizale, Daganawase, Adala Suehoge, Ne Ongwesua. So, an English translation of the words that I've just spoken were greetings to everyone. Thank you for bringing us together safely. We ask that you open our minds to the learning that's coming before us. We thank you all for being here this evening and opening our meeting. Nyawa, thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Principal Ivan, or Vice Principal Ivan Brochu, for our land acknowledgement. Thank you, Mr. Brochu.
The Grand Erie District School Board recognizes the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe as the traditional peoples of this territory. We acknowledge and give gratitude to the Indigenous peoples for sharing these lands in order for us to continue our work here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Vice Chair Susan Gibson.
Hi, everyone. I'm really pleased to bring greetings from the Grand Erie District School Board of Directors. It's so wonderful to see so many parents and guardians who are here to support students, our schools, and our families. It takes special people to not only volunteer their time, but to also volunteer their time in a virtual platform, which we've been having for the last couple of years during COVID-19. It will be a wonderful evening tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing from Dr. Jean Clinton and hearing all your wonderful ideas in the brainstorming session. So thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. And at this time, I will turn it over to Sarah Nickel, our chair of GEPIC, for remarks, followed by some introductions, and then we'll turn it over to Dr. Jean Clinton.
All right, thank you. I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I do hope that you have come with some ideas and some questions and ready to share with both people who have been here, been attending these, and who have been attending school councils for years, and people who are new to that role as well. We are in, as we all know, a different sort of time period now. So there are some new things that we'll be learning tonight that we can do in this different time, and look forward to hearing from you all on that later. I also would like now to, I'm really pleased to be able to introduce our keynote speaker. This was sort of a last minute addition, and we are so excited that Dr. Clinton is available tonight, and that we will get to hear from her. So she is, and I've just lost the bio here. So Dr. Jean Clinton, I have heard of her for years and have not yet had the opportunity to hear her speak. But she is a clinical professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Neurosciences at McMaster Division of Child Psychiatry. She is on staff at McMaster Children's Hospital with cross appointments in pediatrics and family medicine, and an associate in the Department of Child Psychiatry at Sick Children's Hospital. She is a fellow of the Child Trauma Academy, as well as a 0 to 3 Academy Fellow since 2013. She has been a consultant to children and youth mental health programs, child welfare, and primary care for over 30 years. Dr. Clinton was appointed as an education advisor to the Premier of Ontario and the Minister of Education from 2014 to 2018. We are very pleased that she is here to speak with us tonight. Dr. Clinton?
Great. Well, thank you so much for that warm welcome, Sarah, and thank you to Robin so much for opening our evening spent together in such a good way. It's so appropriate that that we have this opening as we think about the many things that we're learning about and from our Indigenous leaders and people. So I'm going to speak with you for half an hour, and then hopefully we'll have some great questions from you for about 10 minutes. I have loved the work that I'm doing with your board. I think that your strategic directions are so crucially vital for the years of 2021. We have a new way that we need to be thinking about education. And so here's a warning. I'm going to be, I hope, very nicely and gently pushing your thinking a little bit about what the role of parents and the Parent Involvement Committee should be in this new world order that we're in. So I want to be gently asking you how do you see your role in becoming part and partner with this wonderful strategic plan that your board and you have come together to be? So just be ready and be nice, because I'm going to share with you international research that shows that parents are so crucially important in the partnership with schools in creating the conditions for kids to absolutely thrive. So let's hear and hope, fingers crossed, that my slides work. I'm becoming bilingual in Zoom and Microsoft Teams, which I'm quite excited about, but it's always a little bit of a trial. So I want to talk about with you about the huge importance of thinking in the roles that you play in your parent involvement committee in terms of the role of building the resilience of the system. I'm going to talk about the resilience of us as adults, the resilience of kids, but I really want to emphasize with you that the international research is absolutely clear that your role as parents will have a huge impact on whether the system makes it through this troubling time that we're in COVID. So I want to talk about why it's so important that you support the learning, the well-being and belonging in schools. And so I want to just acknowledge that here we are. Oh my goodness, what we've been through. Some of you as parents have been through. I'm having to do this learning and schooling at home. I have to balance that and my work and my partner. And you know what? I'm at the end of my rope. I'm hanging on by my fingernails. But you know what? I want you to be inspired this evening, to be full of hope that here we are, we're finally reaching the pinnacle. But you know, as we reach the pinnacle and we get over this, particularly as we talk and think about children being immunized, our little ones, we've come to realize that things have changed, things have been split open in education. We have learned of the huge importance of education and childcare, for example, that it's so crucially important, but education has really been seen as a lot more than just kids learning their numbers and their letters, that education is an integral part of our society. And so what many people, and I interact with people across the world, what many people are saying is now is the time when we need to be very seriously rethinking the purpose of education, what is the moral imperative, and that we need to think about the compelling why of education. And, you know, I love Simon Sinek's work here. You know, he did a great TED Talk, How Great Leaders Inspire Action. But what he said is that great systems don't just focus on what we do, like fundraising, or how we do it, bring parents in, but why are we doing it? And I'm going to share with you the why of why parent engagement is so crucially important. You know, when I talk to educators, I talk about, you know, the what may be the curriculum, the how is the pedagogy, but the why is about human development. That no longer can we think about education as simply filling the kids up with the educational objectives and expectations that we think they need to know. But we need to be igniting the flame of lifelong learning. And, you know, I'm not at all the first one to talk about igniting the flame of learning. It goes back millennia to people thinking about what is education really about. And I want to draw this parallel process for you, if I may, between what we're thinking about needs to happen in education and what really needs to happen in terms of parent engagement in education. What used to be how we played. And, I have 5 kids and 7 grandchildren. So, I've been deeply involved in the education system through there, but also as a daughter of a superintendent of education and a sister of many educators. I know that we have to be seriously thinking about what are the skills and the competencies and the attitudes that kids need to develop in this, what we call a VUCA world, where the world for some time to come, unfortunately, is going to be volatile, it's going to be uncertain, it's going to be complex, and it's going to be ambiguous. That VUCA world is what education and parent and family support needs to be supporting education and the kids to be able to deal with. So we have a new moral imperative, and that is we need to think about education in a human development perspective, and that there's a double helix of education. We can't have just academic achievement anymore. We really need to be thinking about the well-being of children. How are they developing their sense of collaboration, of communication, of critical thinking, of citizenship and character? How are they creative? But what we now know is that we can't just have that well-being happen on Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock. We need to have those two, like the double helix of the DNA, integrally connected, and it's relationships that bind them together. So I have to tell you, I have to be honest with you, I love the strategic plan. I love it when you think about learning, leading, and inspiring. Learning, we need to have educators think more about learning and teaching. So far, a big emphasis has been on teaching and learning. But we need this shift that says educators are all about figuring out how do the learners in front of me learn, but also how do I learn as a learner about how the learners are learning. That was a heck of a lot of learning spoken in that one sentence, but you catch what I mean. We need to have a shift of thinking we know what kids need to know, to thinking of them as competent and capable. And so we need to lead them. We need to educate, which is lead out, and we need to inspire. So one of the pillars of your strategic plan in Grand Erie is well-being. Is to build that culture of well-being to support all of the development of children, not just the cognitive, but the social and emotional. Well, I'm here to tell you as a child psychiatrist that what we have learned is that this focus that we've had to date on academic achievement exclusively, on EQAO, on high stakes testing, has not served our students very well. For sure, there are some schools that do well, but when you actually ask kids, how engaged are you in your learning? What do you see as your purpose in life and the purpose of your education? What we find very often is kids saying, well, I've learned how to be really good at tests. I've learned how to be really good at figuring out what the teacher wants me to do and how to look smart. But you know what? Well-being is so much more than just doing those things. And the World Health Organization has said that well-being has to be about much, much more than not being sick. You don't say I'm well because I'm not sick. What they're saying is that we need to think about how are we creating the conditions in the school and in our homes so that each and every single child realizes his or her own potential, that they can cope with the normal stresses of life, that they can work productively and fruitfully, and this one is so important, is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So I am relying in my work and my learning very much on the teachings that Robin has shared with us tonight, and that is the the First Nations mental wellness framework. And it helps us really think about what is the purpose, what's the moral purpose, what's the spiritual purpose of education. And, I've suggested to you it's about human development. But you know what? It's also not just about human development that we might think about the emotional, the physical, and the mental development, but it has so much to do with the spiritual development, that sense of something bigger than us, that belief that there is something that we are meant to contribute to the well-being of others. And the First Nations tell us that we need to think about this in balance. What do we know about COVID? Oh my gosh, some of the research is telling us that we have lost sight of that physical dimension, that kids and adults have been home and sedentary and on screens, and many parents are reporting that they're worried about their mental health, that they're worried about their kids' mental health. I'll show you some of this. But we need to be reimagining, and think about this in your role in the Parent Involvement Committee, of how can you reimagine so that you each have and each support the educators to have that sense of purpose, hope, belonging, and meaning in their life. So you might say, okay, so how come, Jean, how come you're talking about all of this? You're a child psychiatrist. We have a mental health crisis. Why are you not just sitting in your office seeing kids? And I'll tell you, the reason is because I believe so much in education. I believe that education, a solid educational system, can change the trajectories, not only of individual kids, but of our society. And one of my leaders, one of my mentors said to me, Jean, we can't just be sitting in the middle of a river catching 1 or 2 kids at a time. We need to be upstream and figuring out, why are the kids falling in the river in the first place? So one of the guiding principles that I have now is that we need to be thinking about the conditions that kids are living, learning, and loving in. Because what we now know is that the brain of children, and us, but mainly the brains of children, are massively being changed by the experiences that they have. So if you have a child who comes home and the parents are too busy to get excited about what they're learning, and the kids just sit and do their homework by themselves, and then jump on the television and watch their or whatever kids are watching these days, it may not be television, their brains are going to be very differently built than the kids who come home and the parents say, tell me about your day. What did you learn? Oh my gosh, that's so exciting, because what I learned today was, and then that you have this dialogue, this conversation that says, we love learning as a family. That's so much more important, how it builds the brain. We've got studies that show the effect size of parent engagement in kids learning is not about sitting and doing homework. That only gives you a little bit of an effect size, an impact. But when you've got a love of learning in the house, in the family, when you've got reading to kids and kids reading to you, you've got a massive effect size. Why do I care? Because that experience changes the brain. Literally, we used to think that you're going to be as smart as your mom and dad, and merrily we roll along. Now we know that we've got study after study that show that kids whose parents had major intellectual capacity limitations, that when those kids are in high quality school, when they're in high quality preschool programs, they double what their parents' IQ was. So hello, it ain't genetic. It's genes combined with the environment. So IQ is no longer a fixed trait. In fact, what we know is that the brain is changing throughout life. It's called neuroplasticity. And the educators are fantastic neuroplasticians. But do you know what? I kind of like to think of myself as a mum of 5 kids, that I did a fair amount of building their brains through the loving interaction that I had with them. Why? Because I did not focus. We did not, my partner Jim and I, we did not focus on let's bring in the best educational games, let's bring in this and bring in that. Let's not, I call it stuffing the duck. You know, we've got this idea that we know what kids need and we're going to fill them up with it. No, we recognize from very early on, and I did lots of reading, and actually, you know, to be honest with you, I did a lot of this kind of reading after my kids were beyond 6. And so I was filled with guilt for years and years. Oh my goodness, I didn't know about the brain being built like this. But then when I look back, I saw that this, what you see here in this picture, was happening a heck of a lot in our family. This is my oldest son and my oldest grandson. Look at that joy. What we know is that the brain is a social organ. So as we think about how are we going to make it through COVID as a family, I want you to think about this fact that the brain is a social organ. What our kids need is not more organizing and planning and directing. What they need is more connecting with you. So when we think about the stress that we've been in, I want you to remember the words of my friend, Dr. Bruce Perry, who, by the way, has just written a phenomenal book called What Happened to You with Oprah. Now he's all famous, but I'm happy to say that he's still talking to his friend Jean. But you know, what we know in the most powerful buffer in times of stress and distress is our social connectedness. So we got it all wrong saying that we needed to social distance. What we needed to have messages that said we need to physically distance, but be emotionally and socially close. What does that mean? It means text your kids, text your friends, be in touch. Always, always think about what is the power of relationships and connection, and am I building that? So as you think about this in your parent involvement committees, I'm going to challenge you to say, how can you, in the work that you do, be supporting families to connect with their kids? And how in the work that you do, can you be affecting, connecting with the adults, the teachers, the educators, the support staff who are interacting with your kids? Why do I say this? Well, because I know the research that's coming out from my friends just down the street, the Offord Centre in McMaster here in Hamilton. And the new surveys, the Ontario Parent Survey, if you want to look it up, is saying that parents are going through heck in a handbasket. They are absolutely shredded by the pandemic. You know, 69% of the parents that they've surveyed, and they've surveyed about almost 11,000 parents, representing over 22,000 kids. What they found, 69% are saying they're pretty significantly depressed. Pretty significantly depressed and anxious. 69%. It's gone up. You know, they did the survey a year ago, and then again in May, June, and July. They've found that kids are staying in and not going out. Parents are saying that they've got 40% of them at least are saying they're having trouble with their kids in terms of their behaviors. They're very worried about how their kids are doing. So maybe you need to think about as this year rolls forward, how can you bring parents together to support each other? How can you help parents and yourself do all things with kindness? So, you know, what I'm hearing is that in some sectors and in some kids, the empathy. So my good friend Josh Fullen has done a survey with the Ontario Parent Survey and has found that about 30% of kids have increased empathy They really care about what's happening around them. Their kindness index has gone up. And 25% more kids are talking about citizenship. But what I'm hearing from educators is sometimes they're getting more beat up, that kindness from parents has kind of taken a bit of a hit here. So I'm going to ask you, can you think about not just the kindness that you have towards your children and treating them in the way that you would like to be treated yourself? I'm going to talk about our stress as adults, but I'm going to ask you to really invite your membership to think about how are we connecting with our kids' parallel process, with our educators, and how much time are we spending directing and correcting? You guys have had a different role in parenting through this pandemic. You've been the ones who have had to do the home-based lessons and deal with all of that. You've seen into classrooms in ways that you've never had be seen before. And now there is a changing in the dynamics of the relationship. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about relationship science. And the relationship science says what a healthy relationship looks like is one where there is lots and lots of filling of that emotional piggy bank. How are you doing? Asking, how can I help? Asking, how can I foster this love of learning at home? How can I support you educators in what you're doing? And you do this with your kids as well. I'd love you. Tell me about your day. Let me tell you about my day. Oh, how are you feeling? Expanding their feeling bank of words. The thing is, when you've got a healthy emotional piggy bank, just like a healthy bank account, then when you do have to make withdrawals, as we do, we have to be the party poopers of our kids' lives periodically, there's lots of reserve. Now, you might think, okay, this is very good for the early years, but let me tell you, in adolescence, what we know, and adolescence, by the way, is a time of under construction. We can maybe arrange for me to come back and talk with you about adolescent brain. But when we think about this adolescent brain, we know that the kids who have positive relationships with their parents fare better. They do better. It's not that they have to detach from you in order to attach to their friends, which is their big drive. Your relationship changes and you need to be nimble. But relationship counts. A sense of belonging, of feeling felt by you, feeling safe, feeling secure, feeling seen, all of that continues to be so incredibly important as you move into adolescence. But you know what? I wonder how much of your time you get to spend as a parent involvement committee thinking about the things that are really important for kids in education. Because you've got a huge role to play. Our kids, in order to thrive and do well, need to have that sense of belonging, feeling felt, not just at home, as I've just discussed, but also in school. So maybe you can be starting to ask yourself, how can I support the school in creating a sense of belonging for kids? What automatically comes to my mind is kids from diverse cultures. How can you help them have a sense of belonging at school? Why is all of this so important? Well, because what you think affects what you feel, and it affects how you act. It determines how you act. What you think about what's your role as parents involved affects how you feel and affects how you act. So let me just tell you some of the research, and you're welcome to take pictures of these slides as well. This is the research of Stephen Constantino. So why does engaging family matters from a point of research as well as a return on investment? Why am I nattering on at you like this? Because we know when there is meaningful family engagement and kids' education, poof, great things happen. Great things happen. And I'm going to challenge you in a couple of these slides, because what you may think about engaging families may not be what the research shows is the strongest stuff. But here's the good news. That when you have families engaging, attendance improve, grades improve, test scores improve, student attitudes and behaviors improve, achievement gaps closes. Not only that, when parents are meaningfully engaged in academic and emotional, social, mental health and well-being in the school, teacher satisfaction, efficacy and retention improves. There's improved parent-child communication, and this one is crucial, improved home learning environments. So what do we know according to Constantino? All families want their children to exceed them in the quality of their life. Less than 2% of families are really apathetic. So a commitment by the school to have parents meaningfully engaged is a first step. It is absolutely culture changing and affects parent efficacy. So there's a difference. And you guys probably have looked into this more deeply than I, but there's a difference between parent involvement, which is defined in some of the literature as one-way interaction. The school directs the parents and involvement in what the educational system says, and parent engagement, which is a two-way interaction where parents and schools work together. So for example, you stop and you think about, as parents, what does the lead, learn, and inspire? What does creating a sense of belonging, well-being to deepen learning actually mean for us, for our home, and for how we interact with our teachers and our educators and support staff? So parent involvement, I know this so well. This is what I was engaged in, joining the Parent Teacher Association, attending conferences. You come to this program, there's a guest speaker comes in, and it's more of a doing too, with the school saying, giving you permission. But I'm going to push your buttons a little bit and say, well, you know what? Parent engagement really is something a little bit different. It's about engagement. It's about having the parents consider the potential leader and what goes on. So I can't just leave you with that provocation without thinking and helping you think about, all right, man. Thanks for telling me that, Dr. Clinton. Thanks, Jean. You've just ruffled my feathers greatly without telling you, well, you know what? Here are some strategies for us to get through these challenging times. And so I want to talk to you just in this last minute or so, or 2 minutes, about what do we know about resilience. There's a great website there called wellbeingandcoping.net. But this article, there's an article called The Pandemic Toolkit that parents need. And I think it's one that we all need. I share it with teachers. And that is, from the brain's perspective, to get through these challenging times, I want to give you the gift of this article. And that is an article that says that we need to be thinking about daily routines. We need to keep structure in our daily life. We need to be paying real attention to our sleep, not just to get rest, but we know now from the brain's perspective that it needs sleep for restoration, for rejuvenation, and all kinds of stuff happens when you sleep. You need to help your kids and yourself with all of these things, including exercise. But you know, one of the things I've learned in 35 years as a child psychiatrist, when it comes to finding your calm, many of us don't know where our happy place is, don't know where our sense of calm comes from. And so there's a homework for you. Do you know where your happy place is? Because in order for us to help our kids, we need to put our own mask on first. In order for us to help our teachers, our educators, and be partners, we need to come in with that calm sense of, I can make a difference. We need to revisit the importance of family meals. We need to revisit the importance of reaching out to others to help them. Limit, I'm so terrible at this, limit our time on phones and media. But the last one is so important. We need to be thinking and remembering that our focus, what we choose to focus on, determines our reality. So are you focusing on the things that you can control or the things that you can't control? So put on your own mask first. Find your calm so you can lend your calm. Because what we know is by supporting yourself, your partner, your friends, your kids, to be resilient, able to bounce back, there are three things you have to keep in mind. Resilient people don't waste their time saying, why is this happening to me? They say, you know what? Life frickin' sucks sometimes. Suffering is a part of life, and I'm not going to waste a single neuron asking, why me? Why now? 1. 2, notice where you focus your attention. Am I focusing on what I can change, what I'm in control of? Or am I focusing on all the bad stuff? So notice the good. The third is ask yourself, is what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, how I'm behaving, is it helping me or is it harming me? Because you know what the children are going to remember is the same as what the educators are going to remember, what your friends and colleagues are going to remember. And it's not what you said or what you did, but it's about how you made them feel. And so if you were able to make people laugh, you changed their neurobiology. I'm such a brain geek, but you lightened life. You lightened life. So let me finish with this attitude of gratitude. So we've walked through a whole bunch of stuff here, and I want you to hopefully take from tonight an attitude of gratitude to say, how can I be thankful for the things that are going well? How can I, in the morning or the middle of the day or the end of the day, say, here's your homework, another piece of homework. Here are 3 things that I am so grateful for, that I am going to continue to have and think about. It changes your brain. What we know is you have a powerful, powerful role in your children's well-being and education. When you partner with the fabulous district that you're in, Grand Erie, when you partner with them as a team member, you're absolutely going to change those outcomes. You're going to be a support, but you're also going to be a leader in making change. So I'm so grateful for you, for the opportunity to spend this time with you. And we have a few minutes for questions before I have to get on to my next call, would you believe? That's why I was drinking the Mountain Dew, to get a little bit of a buzz to keep on going. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this. For sure I do. And let's have some questions for the next 5 to 7 minutes.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Dr. Clinton. It's always incredible to hear you speak. We'll take questions, and I'd like to thank you formally on behalf of the group. So we're going to help moderate some of those questions and then round out with a solid thank you. So we see a hand up here from, I'm just going to open my chat box. We see a hand up here from Jessica Belbin. Jessica, would you like to share forward your question with Dr. Clinton?
It's not so much a question, just thank you for speaking tonight. And I really appreciated all that information.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Jessica, for opening up your mic and saying that with me. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have, it looks like we have a question from Jamie. Jamie, would you like to go forward with your question?
Same thing, not really a question. I just wanted to say I'm really happy that I joined today. Your presentation was very, very moving and coincides with a lot of how I've been feeling. So I'm pleasantly surprised that this was just so beneficial. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Jamie. Oh, I'm going to come to you guys all the time. This makes me feel so good.
It looks like we have Regan with their hand up. Regan, go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much for your talk tonight. I'm wondering if you can direct us to some strategies or a way to encourage our children to practice gratitude. I have moody teenagers, one in grade 12 who's really struggling, and just looking for some. Actually, I often say to her, you don't even know how many great things you have going in your life. You need to practice some gratitude, but she thinks that I'm completely, out to lunch. Yeah. So is there a program for kids? Is there a book? Is there something that I could direct her toward?
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question, Reagan. I think the very first thing is for us to model gratitude. You can't make kids feel grateful, but you absolutely can model what gratefulness feels like, and say, I'm so grateful for this time that we're spending. You figure it out within your family what makes most sense. But it may be that what your daughter is looking for you is not so much developing an attitude of gratitude, but she may be looking for you to understand how complicated life is when you're 15. That, oh my gosh, the fear of missing out, all of the social media, all of that stuff is so very, very hard. And she may need, first of all, for you to develop that kind of connection with her where you say, tell me. It's the magical 2-word sentence for me as a child psychiatrist for 35 years, is just to say, tell me what your experience is. And so what happens when you do that is you're better able to walk in her shoes, Reagan. And even though you find it hard, there's so much that she should be grateful for. Her lived experience is she's all caught up in the moment. And so there's some great stuff about understanding the adolescent brain, and that would probably be where I started, modeling gratitude yourself, and then looking at resources around the adolescent brain. So understanding the teenage brain. Even I love Google stuff. I love looking in the Teenage Brain by David Suzuki was a fabulous series. David Suzuki, Understanding the Teenage Brain, and there was one by PBS that was similar. Really, really great. My absolute favorite one is a book called Brainstorm by one of my fave people, Dan Siegel. It's called Brainstorm. And then if you want a laugh, it's, will you get out of my life, Mum? But first, will you drive me to the mall? Thanks for that question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was great. Do we have any other groups, questions from the group? All right. Well, seeing none, Dr. Clinton, on behalf of the group, I just want to thank you so much for your time. When Sarah started this evening and she said that she had heard of you, you're very well known, but not heard from you yet. The first thing I could think of is, goodness, are we in for a big treat tonight? You each time I listen to you, I to be frank, I can't even keep it all in. You just share so much throughout your time with us, and left us with so many strategies in how to navigate a VUCA world. That's one that really sits with me, that idea of volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And right away when you start talking, you get right to the chase of the interconnectedness of education and well-being. And I think one of the points that I'm really left with is how you talk about the brain being that social organ and the importance of connections, and belonging. And you've really set the stage, I think, for the rest of our evening here together. When you talked about all the impact that engagement can have, and you left us with a couple of questions that'll really help us, because we have some time for feedback this evening about bringing parents together to support each other and helping parents to do things with kindness, and educators too. You said you were going to challenge us, and you did. I think it's important for us as we go through the rest of our evening tonight to think of ourselves as both parents and educators as leaders and partners, and how we can do this job together. So on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for everything you've shared with us, and I look forward to next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. Your words really touched me. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Applause.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Clinton.
My pleasure.
We're very fortunate to have you with us on this journey. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now.
So thank you. At this time, I know we are probably need to take a bit of a deep breath. And if we were together, Chair Nicol, we'd probably have a little bit of a break and be able to network a bit and debrief the key messages and what resonated with us. I know this space at this point in time doesn't really present itself for that, but hopefully maybe in the orientation breakout sessions, we will be able to do that. So we know we want to get to a few updates and a few of the typical kind of slides and introductory information that we would share with all of you, and then move into the breakouts with Chair Nicol. So at this point, I wanted to give you a few updates. And I know we were together a while ago, but as you recognize, we are constantly getting updates in and around COVID-19. And I think this evening we want to share a few key ones with you. And the first one being that we do know that the vaccination clinics will be up and running for children between 5 and 11. And as part of that, we are working closely with both our coterminous board as well as both PHU units. And we will have some information that will come out shortly with respect to that information. And we really are going to make sure that parents know that the vaccination clinics hopefully will be running after schools and on weekends with parental and guardian consent. So we wanted to really address that because I do know that that has been top of mind for some parents. And so we will make sure that when our communication goes out, that is clear to all of our families across Grand Erie. Following that, I think I wanted to just pass it over to Superintendent Monroe. I know you have a bit of information with respect to the holidays and COVID-19, and then probably a little bit of information from Superintendent Graham with respect to how we're going to run open houses and what we're looking at, because we do know that the semester notice has been out provincially, and how and when we will be communicating some updates around that. So I will turn it over to Superintendent Monroe.
Thank you very much, Director Brodo. So yes, with the winter break approaching, some families might have travel plans. So what we wanted to just let you know is to be aware of the COVID restrictions and protocols that are in place that are related to travel. And the information that I'm sharing with you right now is based on the most current guidance that we've received from provincial and local ministries and officials. So in terms of traveling within Canada, outside of the vaccination requirements that are in place, if you're traveling by air or on a train, there are currently no restrictions in terms of mobility and COVID-19 for travel within Canada. It is a little different if you're traveling outside of Canada. So for students who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19, they are able to return to class immediately if you go out of country following international travel, obviously as long as they don't have any symptoms and they pass the Ontario COVID screening. For families who have children that are not fully vaccinated against COVID-19, it's important to know that regardless if they travel with vaccinated or unvaccinated parents or caregivers, they are not able to attend school or childcare for 14 days after returning from international travel. So a negative COVID test would be required. A negative COVID test doesn't impact the 14-day isolation. Okay, and then after the 14 days, provided they're symptom-free, they pass the screening test, then they can go back to classes. So, and just, I think it's just always important to be aware of the guidance and restrictions that are in place for travelers. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Graham.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Superintendent Monroe. Again, very, very happy to be here with everyone this evening to not only share in some of the learning from Dr. Jean Clinton, but to also share some updates with all of you and some brainstorming a little bit later. So at this point, I just wanted to make sure that I covered, there's a couple different points that you can see up on the screen right now. The very first one is, of course, around semester updates. And so there was some information that was shared last week that the minister had provided in terms of some possibilities. And so really what I wanted to make sure that I conveyed to all of you right now is that communication will be coming out from Grand Erie District School Board to our communities as soon as possible, once we've had some opportunities to look at some considerations moving forward. With respect to secondary open houses, this is traditionally every year we've got our future grade 9 information nights that would take place in our secondary schools to, of course, welcome all of our incoming grade 9s for next September. And at this point in time through our schools, we are going to be moving forward with not only some opportunities for virtual information sessions, but as well opportunities to get individuals into schools using small groups, essentially tours throughout the school, secondary schools, where they can go from station to station within small groups. So information will be pushed out on school websites and board websites in order to get our future grade 9s into our schools, as well as parents and guardians. So very, very excited that we'll be able to open our doors to create some excitement and buzz around our communities. The next piece on here is around de-streaming. And again, this is tied to some ministry announcements a few weeks ago. The ministry had announced that all grade 9 programming for next September will be de-streamed. We, of course, already have one of those courses, and that's our math class. That is de-streamed, but all other subjects will be de-streamed. We will be getting a new curriculum with science, so that one will have a new course code and expectations. But for those other subjects, such as English and French and geography, we will be using the academic course code. However, there'll be some additional information and expectations around how materials are to be presented and provided to students, and that information will be shared with school boards from the ministry at a later date. But for now, it is exciting. All of our grade 9 courses in September will be a de-streamed model, which essentially means that all students will be together and not separated out by abilities. And,
thank you so much.
This time, yeah, I'll turn it back over to Director Roberto for our GEPIC video.
We appreciate it. Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Chair Nickel. I know I did all the introductions last time, and thank you for leading the way. But why don't you just introduce the video and talk about the fact that you only needed one take, and you're just such a pro at it that we thank you so much for being able to grace the presence of the importance of parents being involved in Grand Erie, and we're so fortunate, Sarah, to have you represent and model the importance of this. And so hopefully through this video we can share this out for school councils to share as well. So I'll turn it over to you to do a brief introduction, and I know Christina's in the background getting it ready.
All right, thanks. Yes, it was quite an experience. You'll see me there. Just for me, learning how videos are put together. So in this case, I was videoed first, and then you'll see the animations were added later. Of course, I'm critical of myself, but I appreciate the opportunity to have done it and hope that the information gets across through it. As they've done a great job of putting it together with what they had. So I appreciate Adam at Atomic Spark and the rest of the crew there for helping us to put this together on a relatively short timeline. The money for this video was taken from last year's Pro Grants funds, which we were allowed to extend the year a little bit with that as well too. So we hope that this will be shown to all school councils and will help parents figure out how they can become more engaged in their child's learning and in their schools. If we're ready to go, we can go ahead.
All right, I'm going to start it up. Please let me know if you don't hear the sound.
Parents are an important part of every school community. Studies show parental involvement in a child's education is a key factor in achievement, well-being, and success at school. Parents and guardians play a vital role in making our schools vibrant, engaged, welcoming spaces. Great things happen when parents and schools work together. There are many ways for parents and guardians to get involved. Staying in contact with your child's school is an effective way to share information and support continued achievement. Volunteering to help with school activities, fundraisers, field trips, or virtual events provides a hands-on way to engage. Serving on school councils offers a chance to work with other local parents and guardians to realize bigger goals that make our school communities better places. Asking your child what they're learning about supports their success and builds confidence. The Grand Erie Parent Involvement Committee gives parents and guardians the chance to share ideas, offer input, and work together at the board level to reach common goals for our students and our schools. Building a culture of learning, well-being, and belonging to inspire each learner means building strong school communities with engaged parents, grandparents, and caregivers working towards shared goals for our kids. We're on this mission together.
We're going to send you an applause at this point in time. Pretty soon it's going to be a standing O. We thank you again, and we will. You're so great, and you allow me to really shine a spotlight on you. So thank you. But we will make sure that when it's ready, which I think we're there now, we will release it both on our website and make sure that school councils and administrators have this for your upcoming school council meetings. So at this point in time, I'm going to ask Superintendent Monroe to just go to our next slide. And I was hoping, Sarah, you added to this last year, and I think it's really important that parents hear your voice around being part of GEPIC, our upcoming meetings, and essentially the role and the importance of it. No worries. I know you're on mute.
I was on the wrong screen there. So all school council chairs are not only encouraged, or interested members are not only encouraged to attend GEPIC meetings, but they are actually members of GEPIC meetings. So probably most of you who are here today, assuming that if there's only one from each school, you are actually a member of GEPIC. So you can attend the Teams meeting, or hopefully at some point there'll be in-person meetings. You can share ideas, you can help us to make decisions, and we would love to have more people come out. We had a lot of people at our last meeting last month, and we're hoping to have as many in January, and maybe we'll even be in person. I'm assuming, are these the dates that are on this slide? Are those 2022 dates?
Yes, well, we thank you for catching that. We're just sending
Okay.
we're just sending a note to make sure that they were going to be adjusted. You're correct.
Okay.
We will make sure that those are the accurate dates.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. So the role of GEPIC is to help So there's probably a more succinct way of saying it, but we are there to help schools and parents and school councils to become more engaged, to learn how to become more engaged in their child's education and in their schooling. So as Dr. Clinton talked about, engagement is different from involvement. Now we are also, involvement is in our name. So we are also involving parents, but involving and engaging parents in our schools and school communities, and ways that we can make that happen. So at the meeting tonight, we are meeting with a lot of different schools across the board, sharing ideas with each other on how this can happen in our schools, both online now and also when we can meet in person again, what that can look like in different ways. GEPIC also, sometimes we would be providing this information in words. We would be also having different, last year we had different speakers come in and parents were invited to attend those. We also in the past have provided grants so that schools can have times where parents at the school level can become more engaged. So we would invite you to come out to our next meetings, which there's definitely one in January. If it's on the 14th. I can't think that far ahead.
We're going to just post them in the chat.
Perfect. All right. I think you're muted.
Sorry, I've just been told it's on one of the slides, the actual date, so it's coming up. So if we can go to the next slide there, that would be great. So for all parents, just so you're aware, and I think it's a really important piece as well, we wanted to just kind of highlight on our website where you can receive this information. Normally on our front page of our website, we will always make sure that the GEPIC events are there. So there's a live link that will be there and you will be able to participate also. So even for some members who want to share and encourage that others partake, or you're out and you would like to connect, we will always have a YouTube video up and ready so that it'll be a live link and take you there. So this is the homepage though, however, and you'll see where parent supports are there. And then if you click on that, it will actually take you to our webpage. And if we can go to the next slide, I'll actually just turn it over to Superintendent Graham, who will share with you that on that next page, you have the following. So I'll turn it over to Superintendent Graham.
Yes, thank you. So when you go onto that link, you'll see the School Council Guide. And I encourage all of you to have a look at this guide and review it with your principal, as there are some incredibly helpful tips and tricks and things in terms of how to run meetings, making decisions, encouraging discussions, and of course some sample agendas. So a very handy guide for all of you as you navigate school council.
Thank you. And can we go to our next slide? And I'll turn this one over to Superintendent Monroe.
Thank you so much, Director Roberto. I wanted to take a quick moment here just to remind families of our process for responding to parent concerns, and this also is on our website. But it's a really great graphic to show how we want to connect parents to the people in front of the work. So if there's a concern in the classroom, we ask families to connect with the teacher. If the concern is resolved, great. If not, then you have an opportunity to connect with the principal. The principal, we always encourage as your first point of contact for a school-wide concern. And again, if there's still a challenge past that, that's where the appropriate superintendent can be involved. And the great thing here as well is if you're not quite sure who to call, we do have information at granderie.ca. And just also pointing everyone the fact that this is really an iterative back and forth process, and there can be often communication between classroom, teacher, principal, superintendent as well. So I just want to highlight that. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to do a little bit of an intro to the next part of our meeting, and I'm actually excited about this, and hopefully you all are as well. This is an opportunity that collectively we're going to be splitting up into 4 groups. So through the magic of technology, we'll be whisked away into 4 groups. Within these 4 groups, this will give an opportunity to be facilitated by 4 individuals, myself being one of those individuals, and you've already seen Lisa Monroe, superintendent, who will be facilitating another group. We're also joined by 2 administrators. You've seen one already, and that's Ivan Brochu. He is going to be facilitating a 3rd breakout, and our 4th facilitator is Barkev Poladian, and collectively the 4 of us will be sharing with respect to 3 areas. These 3 areas will allow us in our breakouts to brainstorm different areas. One area is on parent engagement with respect to successes and challenges. Another area is with respect to school fundraising and partnership activities. And finally, the 3rd one is around opportunities with respect to school counsel. So when we are in our breakouts, we'll be taking some notes using a tool called Padlet, which allows us to document our brainstorming as a group and essentially gives us an artifact at the end that we can share back, or at least summarize our points and share back with everyone. So this is a fantastic tool to be able to gather some thoughts, record them, and then pass them back out afterwards. Because of course, the point behind this is to brainstorm different ideas and suggestions so that when you're back in your respective school councils, some of these will be some great ideas, some starters, some suggestions, and so on and so forth. So at this point in time, we're going to pause just as behind the scenes, the 4 groups are going to be organized. And as members of the Grand Erie Parent Involvement Committee, as was described before from Sarah, we'll be whisked away into 4 groups guided by Barkev, Ivan, Lisa, and myself. So we'll just pause as we're whisked away, and then we'll come back in around 20 minutes. I see a hand up though,
Yeah.
Sarah.
So yes, there was a question on the chat, and I don't know the answer to it. The question is, does that mean that we can see the meeting again on YouTube? So I know that the whole meeting is being recorded, but since we're breaking, I'm not sure if this was the question, but this is my question now. Since we're breaking into the 4 rooms, how does the recording work for that?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for asking that question. First of all, in terms of the meeting being again on YouTube, yes, we're going to leave it on. Similar, Jessica, to what we did last year when we had our speaker series. We left the speaker videos up, so we will make sure that the YouTube that we have live right now will be there. And then in terms of the breakouts, for those who are watching, they will be able to see those breakouts take place. And so we have it set up, I believe, that you'll be able to, there'll be a spotlight, correct, Superintendent Monroe, so you'll be able to hear those breakouts if you are on YouTube. So that's exciting as well. So thank you for raising that. I'm also just going to put the dates from GEPIC on the side here in a little bit of an image. And no problem, Jessica. And then maybe you can save it for future. But all of you should have those dates already pre-populated into your calendars already. So the invites will already be in for the year. And then as the agendas are developed, they will be added to the invites as well as on our website and on our homepage for our website as well. So we're hoping to make sure we ensure that in every spot we can think of, the information this year for GEPIC participation is present and readily available as a reminder. So I'll just turn it over to those who are getting ready for the breakouts. I'm sure it'll be a few minutes to get everybody in. And we look forward then to coming back. So thank you for walking us through that, Superintendent Graham. The Padlet seems very exciting.
That's right. So we're just going to wait right now just while the breakouts are being set up, and you should be moved out shortly. And as people are coming, I feel sometimes in these breakout rooms, it's like being on a virtual roller coaster, where you just want to hang tight as you go through whatever magical virtual ride this is, then hopefully you land safely. So hopefully everyone landed safely. I can see that there's some individuals here, and Sarah, I see you on screen, so thank you. If you are comfortable, I believe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 to 9 of us. If you are comfortable putting your screen on and your video, you can, although you don't have to. There you are. Thank you. Wonderful. I do like to say that because sometimes, and I've been in this situation, and I'm sure you can imagine that, I start talking and there's no video on, and I may as well just turn and talk to a wall because there's no interaction. So you don't have to put your video on, but it sometimes helps to break the ice, so I appreciate that. Okay, so we've got around 20 minutes roughly. We're going to walk through 3 different areas, and so what I'm going to do is I am going to start first with the very first brainstorm that we're going to do. So I'm just gonna change my screen here, and I'm hopeful. I'm going to copy some questions. These are just some thought prompts. So if we're looking for opportunities to be able to share and some learning, I've got to change the font size. So this is incredibly large. Oh, it's too small now, of course. Okay. So these, there are 3 questions, and I put them in the chat. And so if you don't know really where the chat is, up on the very top, you'll see like a little, looks like a thought bubble. If you click on that, the chat will open up, and you'll see some questions on here. We don't necessarily have to answer these specific ones, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to share these questions in a Padlet. And so this Padlet is located right here, and I'm going to share my screen now so that you can see what I'm talking about. Right. So this Padlet right now, this is now speaking to some of those questions. And so the questions that were shared up on the screen are talking about some of the successes and challenges. How have you encouraged parent participation on school council, recognizing other ways that parents can engage, what your biggest challenges, and are you promoting GEPIC? So it's essentially just looking at ways to connect then as a school council. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually keep track of some of our answers as a group. So let me just, I'll be on 2 different screens here. So I'm just looking to see if anybody has any ideas in terms of school council, promoting it, what you've seen work before in the past, and how to bring together individuals on a school council. Yes, go ahead, Sarah.
So we had really great success building numbers on our council by actually going on a really personal level. Dr. Clinton was talking about relationships, and so the people who are on council were encouraged to each reach out to one person and invite them. And so we really grew our numbers just by going on that personal level and extending an invitation.
Extend an invitation. So if you had 6 people on your council originally, each person would reach out, and theoretically you could then double it to 12 the next time, correct? Okay. Let's see, any other ideas? Other ways to engage school council, unique ways you've engaged with families? This is where, as a facilitator, I use something complex called the awkward pause.
I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but we're still doing our council meetings on Microsoft Teams. So we're hoping to get a yoga instructor to come visit our parent council, and we're going to do a little bit of yoga and then do our parent council meeting. So we're hoping to do that in December. So we're not sure how that's going to work out.
So engaging through different ideas, right? Like not that traditional sitting around a table or sitting around a virtual table. So trying things such as yoga. It's awesome.
We've talked about maybe too, the Indigenous mentor. I'm not sure if I've got her title right. She might teach us how to make moccasins, and we might have like a mini paint night.
Whoops. Not spelled right. And what was the last thing that you had said?
A paint night.
You know what I really like about those ideas is it's all about getting people together, right? And sharing in some learning, but sharing in one another's company, so that as you do discuss sometimes difficult things, or at least complex things, you've got some common ground already established by participating in things such as yoga, making moccasins, and painting. This is a really good idea. I like that. Any challenges as school council, how you've addressed them, or anything such as that we could share?
One of the challenges we have is finding parents to be involved. For the last couple of years, it's been myself, the principal, and the teacher who represents the teachers. So we've had a really small group. We're hoping, some people have moved away and it's just been low attendance, but we're hoping that new people will come on. We have one parent. Yeah, sorry for the babble.
No, that's okay. I think in that, I don't think you're alone in that piece, right? In terms of trying to increase membership. Sometimes I remember sitting as a principal with just one parent, right? And trying to think of different and creative ways. But the ideas that you shared already sound fantastic. I'm trying to find out if I could participate in sim yoga. Anyone else? Can move on to another topic if you'd like.
Well, I've been on the elementary school council, and this year it's my first one joining the high school council. Yeah. And I was the only parent that showed up. And so I think at the high school level, which I was hoping to network with someone tonight about that, is just letting parents know that there is still a need for a parent council at that level. You know, you tend to think your kids are older, more independent. Maybe they don't need me as much. So it's still saying you are needed and trying to get people involved. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to mention I am chair at Tollgate Technological School. So I'm high school too.
Okay, thank you.
It's great. Wonderful. Okay, I don't want to lose track of time, so I'm going to move on to the second piece. Although if you still have some ideas about the first one, please, I can always flip back and forth to the different tabs. I'm going to share, though, the next series of questions. And, oops. Because this is now we're starting to get into a fundraising piece. And if you do sit on an elementary versus a secondary, you might notice a little bit of a difference sometimes when it comes to this piece. But as we look to this, again, my font size is too big here, so I'm going to decrease that. Okay, so now this is now speaking more to fundraising. What's your most successful fundraising activity? What types of partnerships does your school or school council have, and what's your biggest fundraising or partnership challenge and how you addressed it? And of course, I've got another Padlet for this one. So just looking for a couple of different ideas to share. Yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you. So I have 2 in elementary school and 2 in high school now. So I think that in terms of the fundraising, we when Lakewood went from PDCS to Lakewood, playground equipment was huge because we were a high school converting to an elementary school. So we did some pretty significant fundraising for the playground initially, and now we have had a successful project with the track out behind our school. I don't know if anyone's used the track at Lakewood for their track and field events. So we just did a huge fundraising project
and whatnot as well, and we're able to communicate with the school and be involved with the school a little bit easier.
I'm hearing,
especially as we're.
And I think the common theme here that I'm hearing is really an open line of communication. So whether it be through school messenger or whether it be through Facebook, that the most important thing is really being transparent and open in our relationship and sharing what's happening in the school, and reminding parents that this is the way that you can support, this is the way that you can help, and just really just keep that going. And after a certain amount of time, we start collecting people and bringing them onto the train and bringing them in. That's how I'm envisioning what you guys are saying.
Yes, but the social media aspect, the teachers aren't on that, or not a lot of the teachers are on that. It's the school messenger part where the teachers are on and you are engaged with that teacher and involved in that classroom.
Right. Okay. All right. So now, can everybody see the second Padlet right now? Can somebody just let me know? So it should be a blank. It should be a blank Padlet that is up on the screen. I'm going to.
Not blank yet.
Hang on one sec here. Right here. Okay. And share. There we go. Can you guys see that?
You got it.
Yeah. So it says, yeah. Okay. Perfect. So school fundraising and partnerships. So in this question, we're kind of discussing what has our school council been fundraising for. So like, for example, trips, playgrounds, resources, and what's been your school's most successful fundraising activity? Let's see here. Another piece that we can even talk about is what type of partnerships does your school or school council have, and what are your biggest fundraising or partnership challenges, and how do you address them? So there's a whole bunch of really neat stuff there. Shannon, go ahead.
We've run 2 fundraisers so far this year. One was leading up to Thanksgiving, and we partnered with Townsend Butchers. So all of their holiday meats. So we offered turkeys, hams, and I believe pepperettes, which it didn't. I think we raised maybe $200 or $300, so it wasn't a ton of money, but it was able to support a local company. Mm-hmm. And then another that we just finished, I found a company in New Brunswick that it's a family-run company that sells lip balms, and we ended up netting over $700 in profit. From small school? Yeah, we're probably around 300. We're Westland and Simcoe.
Okay.
So chocolate bars is what does the best for us always, but we can't figure out a way to make chocolate bars work through all the COVID restrictions. But that's considering, So considering like we're looking at smaller fundraisers to try to bring in some money. The lip balm was quite well received. So I was happy to see that, but that's all that we've run so far.
Okay, well, it's still early in the year, right?
Yeah.
So exactly. that's still really, really good. Okay, so I'm going to add this to our tablet, or Padlet, I mean. You'll see it come up on the screen with BP. Okay, does anyone else have anything that they would like to share from our group? What do you think our biggest challenges are? Go ahead, Jessica.
Sorry, I forgot to take myself off mute.
It's okay. I can hear you
at
now.
the moment, I feel that it has to do with COVID because I'm representing Seneca Central in York, and we have to do things fundraising that is either sent to directly home, or it has to do with, like, we had a harvest meal. And we had to have it all pre-packaged for each individual student.
Okay.
And we have to do things that way as well.
Okay.
I think
and
last year we had this.
I was going to say, has that made that more cumbersome and difficult because of that?
Yes and no. Like last year, we did a fundraiser between gift cards, or not gift cards, like greeting cards, like Happy Birthday, Merry Christmas, and so on and so forth, and Wally Par, and we had great success with that. You know, but it's just it's not like the chocolate bars where they get sent home and the kids get to go ahead and try and sell them to everybody or anything like that. It's okay, well, here's the paper, here's the price. I think that would be the biggest struggle.
Right. Yeah.
They're not actually seeing the product first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of companies now are really starting to realize that they do need to change the way that they approach the cooperation that they have with their businesses connecting with schools. I know somebody was talking about the chocolate. I mean, our school just completed Purdy's chocolate, and we did phenomenal. And it was very simple because, like you said, everything is prepackaged. It comes to the school, but everything has got, like, everything that somebody has bought, or let's say I went and got 12 people to buy chocolates. So the box will come, and there'll be, for me, because I was the seller, and there'll be 12 little bags inside that box, each one labeled with the person's name that bought that. So all I have to do is just hand the bag out to the person. So it's been pretty successful, but that's a different way that Purdy's now has handled things because of COVID. And I think a lot of businesses are doing that now. I know pizza, for example, at schools, there are some pizza companies now that are doing individually wrapped, and they're bringing that to food. Hot lunches now, those are the kinds of things that we're seeing, and they need to change. And I think we also need to be able to find these people and incorporate that into our new normal. And it is tough, but I think it's going to become easier. At least I hope so. Okay, I've added that. Do we have anything else that we would like to include, or would you like to just move into the third and final brainstorm session? I don't see any hands, so I'm going to move us over. And I think I've got the handle of this now, so let me see here. Go back. Hey, look at that. Okay, so this is called opportunities. So in this final tablet, how can schools, let me just stop, and all right, there we go. How can schools engage in helping the school with respect to learning, leading, and inspiring. So the strategic plan. So when we look at leading, for example, let's start there. What
I would love your feedback on that. I know that from GEPIC experience a couple years back, we had a guest speaker. He was just phenomenal. It was a great event. It was at North Park Collegiate, and certainly had a wonderful turnout in terms of parent participation for that evening. Love the ideas. Okay,
Was it
so
Paul?
Pardon?
I was going to say, was it Paul Davis at North Park, I believe?
It was. It was.
It was a great night. That was so busy. That was wonderful to see.
Thanks, Caroline. Yeah, the information he shared for parents that evening was just so fitting for our times with regards to information technology and students just being a little bit more savvy and more aware of their use of technology, and for parents as well. Another prompt with regards to learning: how can your school council help promote or improve student learning achievement? And how does your school council help parents with learning at home? What resources do parents need to assist with learning at home? And a final prompt with regards to inspiring: how does your school council celebrate student learning and achievement? I know that the launch of Grand Erie's new strategic initiative, Learn, Lead, Inspire, I love the three. I think it's so critical as educators that students first see us as learners within the building, that we have a passion for learning and that we could share that passion with them. So that way they're passionate about learning themselves. But any other ways in terms of just engaging Learn, Lead, and Inspire for a school council and to assist with regards to supporting the education of and success of your students? want to thank you so much for sharing these ideas. Certainly speaks to relationships here when you're looking at many of these ideas. Now the tabs for the other ones are still open, so if you still have a thought with regards to either the first, second, or third brainstorming, feel free to click on the link. You can still contribute your thoughts with regards to any of those. Any other, would you like me to bring any of the other Padlets up? Or are we good with just this one for now?
Ivan, I'm not sure if you can see the hands when you're sharing your screen, but there is a hand up.
Oh, my apologies. No, I can't. So, okay.
And I'm sorry, I'm not sure what your name is because your student name's coming up.
My name is Gina. I'm from Cobblestone Public School in Paris.
I'll be honest, this is one from my end that, we're really curious from that angle of the partnership between home and school and how we, getting that the voice of school councils and how they're engaging in learning and leading and inspiring those families. So thinking about, and this might have come up in your first question, but what activities, events, or initiatives have been most successful at getting parents involved? How can the school council promote student learning and achievement at your school? And how do they help with learning at home and providing resources and celebrating achievement? So what's the role of school councils in all of that?
I think that just educating parents in how important those things are. I don't know if people, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, yeah, we know, but giving it to them in different ways with different examples, I think would help it kind of sink in. And instead of just being like, yeah, they might actually pay attention a bit more and take it to heart. I think that we also, we get so busy in life that I think we need a reminder every once in a while. And for me, that was a good reminder of, we do need to spend more time reading together and that kind of stuff, because you just get busy with life. And then it's just one of those things where it's like, that'd be nice to do, you think, on your way to work, and then it's all of a sudden gone out of your head. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, wait, I was thinking about that just the other day, kind of thing, right? So I think just more reminders, and maybe things like this where you have guest speakers or whatever, because I think that a couple of people have spoke up and said that, that really spoke to them what she had said, and maybe other people it didn't, but hearing it from different people in different ways, eventually it's going to hit everybody.
Do any of you have speakers at your school?
Sorry?
Do any of you have guest speaker? Have you had guest speakers at your school?
multiple schools my kids have been involved with have had guest speakers, and as a parent council, often the challenge is what age group of our kids, of our students, are we focusing on? Especially when you're K-8, to have a speaker to meet that broad of a range is really hard. Just before COVID, though, we kind of got smart and kind of geographically 3 close schools got together and we brought in one speaker. So we kind of all shared a little bit of our funding to have that speaker come in. And the goal had been kind of then the next year someone else would host. So that the goal was kind of to reach different needs. But usually with the funding each council's given, they can only do one speaker or one event with those funds. So by pooling the funds, it kind of gave us a broader potential of doing different age groups, different needs kind of thing. And I think as for celebrating the students, like that last part, I've always seen that really struggle in all my schools. Like some parent councils just give money to help with either trip costs or to go towards a little bit towards grade 8 grad or something, but to actually be interacting and be a part of celebrations, no. Whereas I know other schools, like a parent council rep was there for awards assemblies, like the Fill the Bucket or whatever the theme was at that school. The parent council reps were actually there giving presentations and helping hand out the awards, which I think was a good way. That's the parents see the kids in action and the kids see a different parent, right?
We did that kind of like that with Halloween. We did little baggies of treats for everybody. Of course, it was allergy safe and blah, blah, blah. And it ended up being, we got them on sale and ended up being really cheap for us to do. And the primary kids came out and did like a little parade and all the parents were there and we were giving out the little baggies as they go by. But we offered for the entire school to do it. And a lot of the teachers were like, oh yeah, no, my grade 7s aren't going to do it. My grade 8s are going to do it. They're not going to, they're too cool kind of thing. But they came out and we celebrated that. We made a big deal of them actually participating. And it was such a great success. And then just recently for Christmas, we asked the teachers kind of like, what can we do as parent council to give back? And of course, the grade 8 teacher was like, well, give us money for their grad. And I'm like, but that's not the only thing going on in the school. So I ended up finding a sale and I went and got a bunch of like soccer balls and basketballs and footballs. And then I also got for the primary grades, little toys, the like block makers for the snow to be able to make like igloos and stuff like that. And just toys for them to enjoy outside while they're at their recess and, present it to them as kind of like a Christmas gift, but something that we can just give back and celebrate them.
That's a good idea because a lot of parent councils fund that stuff, but it just magically shows up in the classroom, right? And maybe more, it shows up as a gift as guys have done a great job or whatever, right? Or if it's, EKO testing and they get something post that, right?
We're going to make a big deal out of it and like kind of wrap it and have not the kids open it, but at least the teachers and stuff and kind of make a big deal out of them getting something.
Well, that's so much fun to feel like you've got something, and at the same time, what you are really doing, like you are supporting outdoor play. And we did that at one of our schools, and it was the best gift for me. I joke, but it was just wonderful because that's something you find that kids are always looking for stuff to play with outside. And does it get lost? Yes, a lot of that stuff does, but that's part of life. But in the end, I think it supports their the physical activity part that Dr. Clinton was talking about too as well. Do any of your schools spend time talking about the strategic? Have you talked about the strategic priorities of the board? And does learning and achievement come up at your school council meetings, or are there ways to promote that?
I have to say 2 out of 3 schools, yes. usually it's not every meeting, but I'd say every quarter there's a bit of an update, and how teaching focus might be changing to match what the goals are and stuff like that. So it's more that just it's shared with us, not so much for feedback from parent council. But yeah, I think that in itself is just as important, because then parents know it's not just something posted on a website, right? They get to know how it's in action, and usually it's your parents then telling the other parents, which is important.
All right. All right, so let's round out our third thought here. I'm thinking that we're probably getting close to being done. Key idea or ideas that stood out for you to share it with the group? So in terms of engaging with learning and achievement and celebrating students are the three things we talked about.
For me, it's the last one, the making it a part of.
Going.
Is everyone okay with that?
Oh, are we going back? There we go.
Oh,
we're back.
I wanted to hear that
What
comment
happened?
was coming. We all went back to the large breakout room, but there was a parent who was giving a very nice message, and I wanted to hear it. So I don't know if a parent who
She was, so you should get Cassandra to continue on about it.
Yeah, I think it was a good message. So Cassandra, I know you started before we went back to the main room. I wonder if you could just finish with that question you were about to ask.
Of the,
you said my children, and then we got cut off.
Oh, that was actually me.
Oh, that was Teresa.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it was me. That's okay. No, I just wanted to say that it was so encouraging to hear you say that, Robin, and it was so encouraging to see for my kiddos this year to feel such a sense of pride when they went to school. They wore their regalia on Truth and Reconciliation Day, and kiddos asked questions, and they were engaged in the classroom, and they were able to share about their Mishomis and to talk about his realities in a way that their fellow classmates understood, because that's the way they understood it. And we've, as a family, we have kiddos from that are now in first year university to senior kindergarten in our own home. And that's the first time they've ever had that experience in the school. So it was just really heartwarming, I guess, to have that experience.
So part of our efforts now is we're working beyond the Orange Shirt Day, that it's not just a one day or it's not just a week, to really be looking. And I think the most recent was I know there was a walk here in Caledonia, and I don't know if people really know what that walk is for. And it was in support of the Wet'suwet'en people in BC, where there was a judgment that the pipeline that goes through their water source was approved, and that was part of why you'll see a lot of protests right now in its support of that. And I know Grand Erie's made some great efforts with the drinking water. The orange water bottles were delivered as a part of to support that. You know, our garbage and getting rid of the water bottles and really preserving our waterways. So I think the stewardship really needs to be a big part of moving forward. But I love your story. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much. It sounds like we caught the tail end of a very robust conversation. I can speak for my group as well. We had an excellent conversation, and we're going to take a few minutes now just to point out some key ideas for each of the three areas. So our facilitators in each group, when they were tasked with coming up with a key nugget for each of the areas. So if it's all right with everybody, we'll start with parent engagement, and we'll just go around the room. Maybe we'll do it alphabetically. So Barkib, if you want to share the key idea from parent engagement that came from your group. You're just on mute.
Sorry about that. There was a lot of robust conversation in our group. We talked a lot about utilizing our social media. You know, Facebook was an example that we gave. Parents are interested in and involved when they have the opportunity to hear pertinent information. So the more that we can do, the more we do that, the more they see their involvement is impacting. So for example, if you're fundraising and you're sharing, you know, how the fundraising is being used to support the students in the school, and then you're showing how that fundraising actually has made a difference, parents become more engaged and they really want to, they want to be supportive of that.
Thank you, Barkev. Kevin.
Yes, it was actually difficult to choose one, but I did write down one based on our conversation. I'm thankful to our entire group for the conversation and the learning. It was incredible to be able to listen to some great ideas and suggestions from everyone. But one of the ideas that was mentioned was around different ways to engage parents and guardians out in the community by doing different things to bring them in, such as creating or making moccasins, some painting opportunities, and yoga, a great way to bring people together and share in a task or an activity. And then, of course, at the same time, do some learning around the school and the school community. So I thought that that was a great way to engage parents within the community.
Thanks, Kevin. Ivan?
I hope you don't mind if I share too quickly. And my apologies, Kevin, that I didn't leverage your Padlet. I had to pivot last second and use my own Padlet. But anyhow, I'll share these with the group at the end.
That's okay.
The first was to create a feeling of belonging for all the parents who wish to contribute. And one of the challenges is that was mentioned was with respect to a fair number of ESL parents at some schools. And so at times communication with them is not as efficient. So seeking ways to boost that communication and being able to connect with those parents as well. So so leveraging communication as best as possible for all of our parents, and Facebook communication was mentioned as one means as well.
Thanks, Ivan. That's great. It's great to hear all the ideas because there's some similar ones between all the groups. So I'll share one slightly different. So in our conversation about engagement, we talked about encouraging parent participation, and our group also noted that the principal has a key role in that relationship, and it's so important. They help to engage, and where you have a school leader who is dynamic, who engages in voice, and who really involves the school community, that can really leverage a strong parental engagement. All right, so our next topic that we all spent some time on was school fundraising and partnership activities. So, you know, what have you been fundraising for, your most successful fundraiser, your partnerships, and some of the challenges you might have faced and how you address them. So we'll do the same order again. Barkev, did you want to share a highlight from your group?
Okay, so we had one parent that shared that their school really likes to support local companies, and so one opportunity that they've had so far was leading up to Thanksgiving. They partnered with Townsend Butchers for holiday meats. It was an opportunity to support a local community. It might not have been a huge moneymaker, but you know, it's not always about how much we can make, but it's about really engaging the community, because you know there's a lot there's a win-win there in terms of how, you know, they become a central part of the community and of the school community in the future as well. She also talked about even in another province, they supported a local business in New Brunswick, came up with a really good idea. They fundraised for lip balm, and they did really well in that, because it was kind of new and it was kind of different. And I know a lot of schools they go through, you know, chocolate, and they go through oranges and, you know, fresh from the farm, and those are great, and every year, you know, schools really do well in that, but sometimes it's really cool to think outside of the box and bring something completely different. And in COVID times right now, this is also a challenge because of the way things have to be prepackaged for individual students, and it's an adjustment. But we are assuming that businesses are actually recognizing that, and in order to be a part of a school community and to work with the school, adjustments are going to be needed, or adjustments will have to be made.
Thanks, Barkev. And Kevin.
Yeah, our group had a fairly similar conversation. Some of the ideas were around local businesses, but one of the ideas that was put out there was the fact that a school had partnered with a local business where the business itself then provided a kickback, essentially, to the school. And what it did was it actually reduced the need for the school to collect monies and to do that logistical piece of it, because of course, as patrons and individuals going into that local business, the business just kept track of how much was brought in or how much business was brought in, and then a kickback was given to a school. And the benefits, of course, is using local businesses in the community that families would go to often. So it helped to sort of strengthen that bond with local partnerships and communities and businesses. So it was a great suggestion. A lot of different other suggestions around local businesses too. So it's great to hear that from not only our group, but also yours, Barkett.
And Ivan.
One of the ones that certainly spoke out was with regards to the biggest fundraiser was a Kinderpin. Although they had some delays because of COVID recently, they're confident that it will be completed by this summer of 2022. So anyhow, that was the one that stood out.
Thanks, Ivan. And again, we talked a lot about the local piece as well, but another part that came up that was good learning from me too is there's been, since with the use of getting tax receipts for donations, schools have felt that having open donations has been, that in and of itself has been a real game changer for those schools. So something to consider when schools are doing the fundraising. Sarah, did you have any thoughts from the GEPIC chair about this that you wanted to share it with the group? Sarah Nickel? No. Maybe at the end? You want to round it at the end? Yeah. All right, and the last topic then, and that we wanted to talk about was just general opportunities, how schools can engage in strategic planning with Learning and Leading Inspire, how we're celebrating achievement, how we're celebrating students in our school. So we'll follow the same format. Barkev, what did your group come up with?
Well, we talked about leading and learning and inspiring in separately to bring it all together, but I really wanted to share the post that I have. First of all, I want to thank Ivan for teaching me how to use this Padlet, and for somebody that's never done this before, look I even put a picture up there. I even did a snippet and it worked. I couldn't believe it. So what you're seeing there is an example of how parents can be a part of their children's school life, and it's the celebrations. It's the little things like, an academic achievement award, when a child brings this home and parents see it and they have the opportunity to engage with the child and talk about it. And, it's a small milestone, in the grand scheme of things, but, it's a huge celebration. And we talked about, it's not just one day that it puts a smile on a child's face. It could be for a very long time. So when parents see, that there are things that we're doing at the school to really build the confidence of our students, and when they see that, they naturally want to be a part of the school community, and they naturally want to be able to support and look for ways of being a support in the school. So I really appreciated that part of the conversation. Thanks,
Barkev. Kevin?
Yeah, thank you very much, and well done on the picture, Barkev. Our conversation in our group was also continued to be fantastic, and I was honored to be able to listen to some of the ideas. I'm actually going to share two. I apologize, but the first one was sponsoring an award towards the end of the year. Such as a leadership award. I think that allows the school council to get involved with helping to celebrate the achievement and the successes of students within the school community, to be able to see that students are doing a great job within their school. The second piece was the school council helping to put together a list of resources for parents and guardians. And so working with school staff to support and assist in getting some of that information out to school communities, whether it's emailed out to the distribution list for members of school council, or even placing it on their Facebook page. It really helped, or they felt that it helped other parents and guardians within the school community to be able to share these resources, because as you can imagine, especially of the last 2 years, for parents to be able to find resources, it's almost impossible because of the amount that's out there. So to be able to have something that's already been combed through, I think was a great opportunity for school council to make an outreach to school communities and to be able to support them.
Thank you, Kevin. Ivan, what did your group come up with?
Do you mind if I share my screen?
No, sure, not at all. We'll just switch over.
All right, so there was our screen here, and certainly one of the ones that we spoke on a little bit more. Certainly the how-tos, as Kevin had mentioned, for certain subjects that would resonate with parents, but working with Indigenous communities on understanding our neighbors and being respectful beyond just acknowledging land.
Thank you, Ivan, and thanks for sharing your Padlet as well. For our group, we talked about events like this evening, and having guest speakers really helps to center us in our work around student learning and well-being. We also talked about, really being intentional in your school council meetings to talk about learning and achievement and well-being within those meetings. It sounds super simple, but sometimes, there are lots of priorities on the plate of school councils. But if we can, focus in on that piece on a regular interval, that really helps to keep it centered in our work. Sarah, did you have any final thoughts about the different points that we talked about here? And then I want to address a hand that was up in a couple of minutes.
So I didn't get a chance to hop into the different rooms this time. So I was just in my one room participating with Kevin there. So.
No, that is great. No, I appreciate that. So I appreciate, Jessica, I really appreciate your patience. I see that you had your hand up and you put a comment in there because I think there were some pretty powerful conversations. So Jessica has made the suggestion that inviting Cassandra to speak about her son and his culture shock and how he is trying to learn. So at this time, I'd love to end this if Cassandra feels comfortable sharing that with us. We would love to invite that with the greater group.
Yes. Yes,
hi, everyone.
That is what I want.
Thank you.
So in our group, we were talking about how we inspire. My son was not a regular kindergarten to grade 8. He was always missing 30 to 40 days per year. It was really horrible to get him to go to school. He didn't like it. With the cultural shock, I didn't grow up on reserve, but he did, and his sister did. So when he went to high school, he went to Tollgate, he did not know a single soul because he's not academically the same as other children. So he went into the bridge program. We went to the open house. We got a little tour. I could see in his face, he was like terrified. But we calmed down. We got it all set. And then when Dr. Clinton was talking about other, like to know your neighbors, think about their conditions they grew up in. Chris is a second generation of a residential school. So his grandfather went to residential school here in Brantford. So for him to come from on reserve, how everybody knows about like Orange T-shirt Day, for Chris, he knows about it, but he didn't know about other races because there are only one race on the reserve. So when he went off the reserve, he was like, wow, he didn't know. So I think for Indigenous children to learn the other cultures as well, Dr. Clinton, I was like, wow, that's so amazing. And now Chris, he doesn't miss a day of school. He's always at school. He loves it. But for him, it's amazing. He gets letters how well he's in class, his attendance. It's just phenomenal. But he also give gave his teachers an orange t-shirt and a book of the orange t-shirt. So 3 teachers got that from Chris before Orange T-shirt Day. And then the World War II, my grandfather was a World War II sergeant. So at Remembrance Day, we were trying to get everything, but everything on the reserve, it wasn't so important. But here he's like, wow, mama. So we have his medals, we have everything. He loves it. So I think vice versa, it works both ways. But he's just like, wow, this is so amazing. Yeah, he really likes it. So for him, he's learning as well.
Cassandra, thank you so much for taking the time for the rest of the group to get to hear that. And when we talk about inspiration, I don't think that you could punctuate it any better than sharing that journey with us. So thank you so much. Wow. Yeah. At this time, I'd like to turn it back over to Superintendent Graham for any, we're nearing the end of our meeting. So just in terms of any questions from the group, and then we'll have our closing next.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much. And so as Superintendent Monroe just mentioned, at this point, if there are any questions or things to take away, we can pause at this moment in time just to see if anybody has anything. I just saw my chat stuff pop up here. Oh, okay. So Sarah's just put into the chat. Can keep the conversation going and share some more information on GEPIC's Facebook group. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Jessica, I see your hand up. Did you have a question?
I think you're just Jessica.
Yeah, you might be on mute.
Yes, I am. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm sorry.
Oh, we're good.
So I wanted to talk about best by far for our fundraiser was the greeting cards. And that helped with our playground. It covered a lot of the cost of the playground. That's all I wanted to comment on. I didn't have any information on it because I'm not the usual person to come into this meeting. So that's all I wanted to say.
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Any other questions from anyone?
There's one in the chat from Christy who's asking, are we offering pro grants this year?
Offering pro grants. I know that information, Director Roberto, is your hand up to address that question? I just saw it go up.
Sure, but I know that Chair Nicola is ready to answer that.
Okay.
that was last meeting, and I know that you got it ready to go. Thank you.
So we have not made a decision on that yet. We're waiting for the January meeting because we're waiting, hoping that we'll know by then whether we can have more in-person events. So hold tight. It may be a quick turnaround, but we're not sure exactly how they're going to look this year, whether we can offer them to the schools or whether we'll be doing board-wide events again. It's going to kind of be health unit dependent and what we're allowed to do or not. So we're hoping by January we'll have answers for you on that.
Wonderful. Thanks for the answer and great question, Christy. Jessica, did your hand just go up?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I had to ask, how do I get involved with this GEPIC?
Well, you are already involved, Jessica.
I was going to say you're here.
I know, but I don't get the invites or anything like that. Like the main girl for the parent council meeting does. So how do I get the info and everything?
So what we're going to do is this evening we'll go through the list of participants and anybody that is new, so meaning they weren't in our last session, we will add you to the next 3 GEPIC meetings, and so they will pre-populate into your calendars. So we really encourage this, and thank you, Jessica, for joining this evening. And that is the important piece, is that it is getting out, and through word of mouth or through each of you taking turns and participating, the more we have, the better it is. So that's what we will do this evening. So by early next week, in your calendar, you will have the new updated dates that are there for you in your calendars. So we'll make sure the invites come your way.
Wonderful.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that information.
And thank you for joining and for sharing this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Sarah, I believe you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I have a screaming baby in the background, so I hope that you can hear me. I just wanted to know that in our group that we had, one of our people brought up the idea of doing like some sort of informal kind of Facebook group of some kind for all the chairs to be able to talk, get advice, get, contacts, all that kind of stuff. Is that something that maybe, I don't have everybody's contact information to be able to invite them to something like that, or maybe it's not, Facebook, whatever, but is that something that maybe I can contact Sarah and then have her get everybody and invite everybody to something like that, if that's something that we want to do? Or
so there's a link now in the chat to a Facebook group, and it does say GEPIC, but it is meant for the school chairs, so that we can share information with each other, answer questions, and so on. So it was created a few years ago. It's kind of been somewhat inactive for the past year and a bit, a couple of years maybe. But anybody who's here tonight is welcome to do that. It is a closed private group, and school council members are welcome to join. If a board member would also like to join to help with the, if we need any help with admin side of it, then I would welcome that as well too. I think that's maybe what you're looking for, Sarah. Is that right?
yes, I don't see the link in the chat, but yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay, if you search GEPIC in Facebook, you probably have to search. You might have to search GEPIC : because I put the colon and so it thinks it's part of a word. But you should be able to find that there. And thank you, Teresa, for putting that. There's a link now that Teresa just put there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anyone else with a question? I thought I saw a hand up, but I don't see it anymore, unless that's just me.
No, I had my hand up. I lowered it because they answered my question. I couldn't see the chat either.
Perfect. Okay. I'm just going to pause. My group knows this. I like the awkward pause to see if there are any questions before we move on. That's enough awkwardness. Okay, that's great. Just know that, again, if you have any questions, and I think as Lisa is putting up the slide deck here, we're getting to right at the end. So if you do have any questions or feedback, please let us know. As Sarah is still on the screen right now, you can see her, and that is an email to get in touch with Sarah Nicol, the chair of GEPIC. So once again, thank you, Sarah, for the work that you're doing, supporting everyone in this space. I'm just going to turn to see if you have any comments or any last final thoughts, Sarah.
I do not.
Okay.
We've covered it quite well.
All right. And Director Roberto, do you have any comments or final thoughts?
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. This has been an outstanding session. I thank you, Sarah, for leading the way, and to our leaders here in Grand Erie for for leading the breakouts, and for all of the parents and all of your voices. This matters to all of us. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, we cannot do this without you, and we really truly thank you for being part of our learning journey. Have a great evening.
And at this time, I'm actually going to turn it over to Robin Statz, our Indigenous Principal Leader, for closing.
So normally when we would do an opening, it's opening our minds, and in the end, we do the same thing. We close our minds and wish ourselves well on our way. So, Nyawa sangwaya diso, nyawa skano wega nizere. Nyawa agwego skano dewanandunyo. Nyawa sangwaya diso. Thank you, Great Spirit. Thank you for peacefully concluding our time together, and thank you for allowing our minds to work together. Good tidings on your way home. Thank you, Creator. Donito, that's it. Enjoy your evening.